Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. I am Hasifa and you're watching Preston Every Design. In today's video, we are going to go over a variety of things. So this video is going to be jam-packed with content because I have so much going on right now that I have to work smarter and not harder. So this is the most efficient way that I can bring this content to you guys. So I'm really excited about today's video because I have my handy notebook here. I'm going to answer 2 commonly asked questions that I've been getting on my channel. And then I'm going to go over what's going on with the business and the upcoming market. So let's get started. So I'm currently getting ready for the big holiday market coming up on November 6th. Now this event is really big. It's the largest scale event that I have done. So the last 5 months have really been a good way to prepare me for this event because I've been doing weekly farmers markets in my local area. So for this event, we now have exactly 12 days left. So I've been preparing officially for this event starting October 1st. So right now it's 12 days in and I'm going to let you know what's going on. But before we do that, I wanted to answer those 2 questions that I talked about that I'm getting commonly asked lately on my channel. Well, the number 1 question is what type of paint spray I use. Because I have such a large number of items to get done, I am needing to use my paint sprayer more frequently than other times. So the sprayer that I use is the Graco 360 True Airless. It does not require a compressor and it's really easy to use. It's very user friendly. I do have 2 videos on this sprayer. One is the unboxing video, which is terrible. And then the second video is going to be showing you how I set it up and how I clean it. It has been really helpful because it's helping me knock out projects in a fraction of a time. So if you are in the market for a sprayer, that's the one that I use. Now, the second question that I'm getting is, how do I get so much done? How do I do it all? Well, I'll answer that by telling you that I do not do it all. As a matter of fact, I always feel like there's something that needs to be done that I never get accomplished. But one thing that I do want to stress that is so important that I feel helps me to remain as productive is making sure that I'm taking time away from repetitious projects. So sometimes I can get overwhelmed by creating, the same thing. And so sometimes I just need to walk away and do something to get my mind off it and then go back. One of the things I do is I try to tackle projects in my home because I have so many projects that I want to do, but my business has been keeping me really busy, especially with this event. I have so much to do for the business that sometimes when I'm feeling burnt out, I will tackle a project in my home. And I'll be sharing some of those with you guys as much as I can. But yeah, that has been really helpful for me. For example, this week I took some time to work on the chair that I'm sitting in. This chair has been on my to-do list for over 2 years and I finally knocked it out and it was really great. It was a great feeling. Actually, let me get up so you can see what it looks like. Kind of rejuvenated me and I was able to get back to work and go back to slaving away. Okay, so now let's move on to the next part of this video and I'm going to share something that's helping me stay on track and get through this really busy creative season. One of those things is being organized. I cannot stress how important being organized has really been for me. And so, it's such a broad subject, and sometimes if we pursue it as a broad subject, it's really hard to figure out how to be most effectively organized. So what I do is I break it up into smaller chunks, into little sections. My workshop is my garage, so it's just an empty space that I'm constantly having to, rearrange and reorganize and just create stations. And so one of the stations that I was able to get organized not long ago that has been really helpful is my paint storage for my small items. Now I have another section for like large gallons of paints for the large projects, but for the small projects, I keep my I call them my premium paints. These are like the Waverleys, the Dixie Belle, the JRV paints, the DIY paints, all of that, the Sweet Pickings. So those are what I call premium paints. And so I keep those in a small cabinet. It's not small, it's quite large, but I keep them in one section so that I know how to quickly access them. So I'm going to show you how I organize my small paint storage, and I'm going to share with you how effective it has been for me. So let's take a look. Okay, let's go inside. Okay, we're gonna start at the top shelf. So I keep all of my spray paints here. I have some, of course, at the bottom, but I'm gonna show you the top shelf first. Now, over here in this section, I have all of the small paints. Now, these are usually Oops paints that I pick up at the Home Depot whenever they have colors that are commonly used. Now, these are the ones that I don't use too often, so they go at the top. Now, right here, these paint containers. When I mix my own paints and I have paint left over, I store them here, but I have to use these, within a reasonable time, so those don't sit there too long or they dry out, because that's not a proper paint storage container. And then over here in this section, I store my cleaners, my crud cutters, my glue gun, my strippers, my degreasers, all the way to the back. This is where I store all of the cleaners, my window cleaners, glass cleaners. Now the second shelf here, I have this little IKEA cubby that I put here. So at the top of it, in this corner here, I store my plaster of Paris back there. Behind here is my baking soda for when I'm doing the baking soda technique for the baking soda paint. And then in this jar, I store my IOD clay. I have it in this jar to keep it airtight so it doesn't dry out. I don't use this very often, but it's here. Now over here, I have my little sponges that I use for like stenciling, but they don't work too well for me, so I mostly use stenciling brushes. And then in here I have just regular flour. Now that's what I use for my molds when I need to make shapes. And then here I have just a little small snack size Ziploc bags for when I need to store little knickknacks. And then over here we have my spray sealers, my top coats. They go all the way to the back. I try to buy in bulk as much as I can. And then in these here I have two baskets that I picked up from the dollar store. Now in the top part here I also have extra sealers. This is usually where I store my polyacrylics, but I'm down to my last can here, and so I'm currently using it as overflow for this section here. Now in the bottom basket I store my shellac. I don't use that too often, so I usually buy that in a set of 3, and that lasts me a while. As you can see, I still have plenty of that. And then over here I have the spray paints that are overflow from the top shelf, so they overflow over here. But I don't always have too much spray paint on hand, so sometimes I can use that space for something else. Now in the bottom here I have this little wooden crate that I built myself, and I store my wood glue, my wood putties, and back here I have my tonics to clean my tarnished silver. They're hiding back there because it's also something else I want to make sure Preston never gets to, and so I store those in that little crate. I do have a video on my channel on how I built these out of pallet wood. Now in front of that I have these 2 baskets from the dollar store. This first basket here, I store all of my sealers like Mod Podge and fabric stiffener, varnishes, and fabric fusion, you know, things like that. Next to it, I store my waxes, my Waverly. So all of this is wax. This is the white wax. I have the antiquing wax, more wax back here, clear wax. So all of the waxes go in this little basket. I don't have too much of that on hand, so they can fit in this small basket from the dollar store as well. Same thing with the Mod Podge. I don't use too much of it, so it can also fit in this little basket. Now over here I have this little tiny house that I painted. I was going to sell, but it never sold, so it came here for storage. And in here I store these little paints. They're very attractive to Preston, so I disguise them inside this little house. He doesn't know what's in here, so I don't use this very often. So they've been in here for quite a while. I don't even know if there are some that need to be thrown out, but so those go in here, and I usually put this one right here out of the way. Okay, so now we're gonna go over to this little cubby that I got from IKEA. Now in here I have lots and lots and lots of things. So for the top shelf here, I have these little buckets from the dollar store, and I store some of my Waverly, the ones that I buy, you know, the little small sized containers. I just store it in these and I stick it back there. I try to group them by color when I do have plenty, but right now I have miscellaneous colors, so those go in here. And over here I have, this is the little paint sprayer holder when I want to attach it to a can to make the spraying easier. And then this is my IOD mold. I only have 2 of these, so they can be stored here. I don't use them very often, as I mentioned. And then in here I have another pack of clay. Now this one's unopened, so it can be stored here. The open one goes in this container so it doesn't dry out. Okay, in this cubby I have my Rust-Oleum chalk paint. I usually order 3 at a time, so they fill up this little cubby here. In here I try to get paints that are neutral colors or paints that I'm currently working with. So these are the whites, magnetics, blacks. Now this is something I'm currently using because we're in the fall, so I'm doing a lot of mustards and so on. And all this is paint as well. Now in this little cubby here, this is leftover paint that I mixed that I need to use right away. Now back here I keep my speckle next to the wood filler, because sometimes I like using the speckle. It's really quick, it dries faster. Now I do use the Dom's water putty. The only problem with that is that I never know how much to mix. I always mix too much, and then once it's mixed, if you don't use it, it dries away, so it dries up. So sometimes when it's a quick, easy project, I'll grab some of the speckling that I pick up at the Dollar Tree, and it works really well for me. Okay, now for the bottom shelf of this cubby, I have all of my stains. So I try to pack them all the way to the back, my stains and top coats. I'm currently also using them as overflow for the paints I'm working with, but pretty much this entire bottom row is for storing top coats, stains, and seals. Now right here in this corner I have my bare wax, and then I have my Varathane finishing wax, and I just stick these here on top of each other, and they're easy for me to access. So that's what the whole thing looks like. I mean, it's not the prettiest, but it's definitely very functional for me. Now, I also have a little pull-out cubby here. Now, in here, I have these Dollar Tree baskets again. I attach them together using zip ties so that they don't move. I have all of my premium paints here, and when I'm not using it, this just pushes back. Now at the bottom here I have my pattern for my little houses. I just put this on the wood and I truss it out and then I cut, and so I store that here. And then here I have my my transfers from IOD. I don't use this very often, so this is all the space they need. I have some contact paper here for making stencils. So that's all that I have in this drawer. And then back here, down here, I store my red Solo cups. I use those for mixing paints. When I don't want to contaminate the full container, I just go in there and I grab that. At the bottom, I use it as overflow for my floral foams and what do you call those things you put in to fill floral moss. Now in here it's a little messy, but this is where I store all of the extra bags and boxes. This is the miscellaneous. I don't use that very often. So now that we've covered those two questions, I wanted to take a moment and offer a word of encouragement regarding something that I'm seeing a lot lately. I know so many of us creators have big events coming up, and some of us are feeling, just a bit overwhelmed by the creative process. And so one of the things that I've been seeing repeatedly in some of my fellow creative communities is the struggle for perfectionism. Some of us are not being able to really let our projects shine because we fear that they're not perfect and we just don't think they're good enough. And it's something that's so common and so popular. It is the struggle of perfectionism. Well, you guys know God works in mysterious ways. I belong to a mom ministry where it's all moms, and we get help in being encouraged and being uplifted. And so in today's meeting, we talked about perfectionism, and I was like, wow, perfect timing, because this is exactly what me and some of my fellow creators are struggling with, perfectionism. Well, something was shared today that was like mind-blowing for me, and I hope it will help you as well. They mentioned that there is a major difference between the pursuit of excellence and the pursuit of perfectionism. What's the difference? Well, pursuing excellence means that you will give it your all. You will do your absolute best, and then you will let things be. Now, pursuing perfectionism means that you will give it your all, you do your absolute best, and you will still doubt and beat yourself down in the end. So try to stay away from the pursuit of perfectionism and rather pursue excellence. And I hope that that will help all of us as we are getting into this really busy season of creativity. Let us work hard on pursuing excellence and try to avoid the pursuit of perfectionism, which many times does hold us back. Okay, so I hope you guys don't mind me being on my soapbox today, but I really just wanted to take a moment to sit down and just connect and really dig deeper, because so often we get caught up behind our tools and our power tools and everything that we're doing, but we forget that sometimes it's just nice to sit down and just chat and check in with each other. So let me know in the comments below, are you finding yourself in this, struggle of perfectionism? Is it holding you back? Is it keeping you from creating? And if you're creating, is it keeping you from selling your merchandise? Because I know that's a big deal for some of you. You're saying, oh, I don't know if my items are good enough to sell. Have you been experiencing that? Let us know in the comments below. Okay, friends, so thanks so much for tuning in. I'm gonna go ahead and stop talking, but for the last part of this video, I do want to share with you some of the items that I'm making for the market, because I know all of you are wondering, what are you doing? What are you doing? So I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the items that I've been able to whip up and show you what's going on. Alright friends, thank you so much for tuning in. I sure hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it is jam-packed with information, but I hope that it was useful information. And if there's anything you took away, I would love to hear from you. And if there's anything that you would like for me to share in the future that's not in this video, feel free to leave that in the comments as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to click that bell notification if you have not. Like and share this video with your loved ones, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.